This is the Dog Savant Podcast with your host, Brett Endies.
Hello and welcome to the Dog Savant Podcast. I'm Brett Endies. I'm your host. I'm a professional dog trainer here in Los Angeles, and I do this show to help you, a dog owner who may be struggling with dog behavior problems, may want to learn how to understand your dog more, and even some basic obedience issues we cover on the show. So welcome new listeners, continued listeners. Today is episode 47. Today we're going to talk about, is it 47? Oh, I'm sorry, it's episode 46. Okay, I think so. Either way, it's in the 40s. We keep going every week here. And today we're going to talk about what is abuse. A lot of people throw that term around, and I just wanted to, at least from my point of view, clarify what is and what isn't abuse. Because, I talk a lot about it being a good time to be a dog abuser right now, because people who are not abusers are getting the label, good dog trainers, rescues, owners, and there's nothing of the sort going on. And then the people who are really doing horrible things to animals can get off scot-free because it minimizes what they're actually doing. Anyway, before we get into that, I wanted to just take care of all the business like I usually do. If you're a new listener or you haven't yet, please subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, rate, leave a good review, share with your friends. All of this helps. Following me on social media at the Dog Savant, S-A-V-A-N-T, just like the show. It all is going to be helpful for me to continue doing it. Your feedback, your questions, email me your questions at dogtrainingla@gmail.com or my website, dogtrainingla.com. And thank you so much. I've been getting some good questions, some support. I'll try to answer one here before the show's over as well if I have some time. Anyway, dog abuse, animal abuse, human abuse. Look, I don't want to discount. There are horrific things that go on with dogs, and I've seen videos and heard stories and witnessed firsthand even training methods that were teetering on the edge of abuse. And what is abuse, at least in my eyes? I don't have a Wikipedia, encyclopedia in front of me here. But what is it to me? It's something you're doing to an animal that causes pain and long-term harm, both mentally and physically, of course. Anything short of that may be just communication, right? So, let's start with the obvious, because I've been called a dog abuser for using certain training tools like pinch collars, e-collars, saying no to a dog, creating rules, creating physical boundaries. These are things that people, especially the ones that subscribe to the purely positive state of mind, and ideologies, they will really just throw that out there so loosely that, like I said earlier, it makes people that really are beating dogs or misusing these tools, they're just flying under the radar, because how many accusations are there to go around, right? And I'm not saying don't look out for bad dog trainers, but there's all forms of abuse as well, right? It's not just the obvious when it comes to training. It could be giving the dog too many treats. It could be letting a dog, I did this in one of my last episodes, stop babying your dog. It could be letting your dog sit in a constant state of anxiety and insecurity because you're more willing to baby them and act on your emotions towards them than lead them and treat them like a dog and give them structure, right amount of exercise and boundaries that they'll thrive on in a consistent way so they can learn good habits even if they develop bad ones. So, that to me it might not be physical abuse, but if you have a child living in a war zone and you have an option to change that, but you're like, well, it's just easier if my commute here in the middle of this horrible, third world war zone. So instead of the opportunity to come to a safe place where we're not at risk of getting shot or mortared, and I can have the same job and probably a better life, I'm going to just do what's easiest, more convenient for me, instead of everyone around me being mortified day in, day out. I use extreme examples sometimes, albeit, right? But I'm telling you, when a dog is reacting to an everyday thing with an extreme fight or flight mechanism or aggression, like they're going to die, same thing. They're in the moment right there and waiting for the next shoe to fall of when that next moment's going to happen. If your dog has extreme anxiety, reactivity, leash aggression, and for people not willing to go through some of their emotional discomforts, to do what their dogs need, to me is as much abuse as if you're pulling out a a switch in whipping a dog. And with that, I even remember when I was in dog training school back in the 90s, and I learned from a guy who was, I think he's a good trainer. I don't know what he does now. This is 20 plus years ago, but he gave us a copy of a book called Training Dogs with Colonel Conrad Mose. And if you're a dog trainer or a dog behavior person, you probably heard of it or read it. They have copies of it online. And it was, the guy understood how dogs think, but it was very barbaric. There was one part of the book where how to choose a proper switch to punish the dogs with, if whip them with it, and that's no way, shape, or form what a good balanced dog trainer does. They don't use that. Even something like let's go to modern times. There's a dog trainer. I don't really, he knows dogs, but I think he's a bit of a blowhard, and I think he also has a lot to say about everything else instead of his world. He uses, and there's other trainers. One of them I like him, but he still uses it. It's called a bonker. They roll up a towel, they wrap it in rubber bands or tape or something, and then they pop the dog in the nose if it jumps, whatever. And as you hear how I talk about this, it's more about finding why the dogs do what they do and having a strategy to prevent and teach better replaced behaviors and rewarding that. And then if they do jump, you can correct it. But I find the correction is almost an after the fact thing versus it being, well, let's, we know the dog jumps when people enter the house. Let's have the dog on a leash and a hard sit before they get that trigger, that response when the person enters. And by holding their hard sit, they will learn to get through it in a calmer, less overstimulated way, and then they get attention for that. If we're consistent and take that preemptive approach, at some point the dog's going to get it, right? So that's really, I always explain, why don't you like those? So it's him, I'm right there, I explained it. I like to prevent a behavior, and even when you're correcting something in your hand, dogs, I believe, understand what trajectory is. So anything that comes from us that can strike or throw, it's in their DNA because they've lived with us as hunters for so long. It's just something they've observed, and probably people were throwing shit at them for a lot of years, right? So pick up something and raise your hand. Even if you've never thrown anything at your dog, watch how they respond. Most dogs, unless they're numb, are going to do some kind of, response. Don't really do it, but that's what's going to happen. And so that's really what happens with that. And then you get a dog that can not have trust, and then they want to back away instead of just find a boundary. Hey, be happy and excited to see someone, but learn how to keep your energy internal and focus initially on a command to make a calmer response to get the attention. Your brain starts going to calmer instead of overstimulated. Just got to take time. Bonker's too much of a quick fix, just like ignoring the behavior altogether and then just conveniently giving treats when everything disappears. So I don't want to go too off topic on training styles right now, but that's, I don't want to call it abuse, but I think that to me is a little too much, right? And I'm not qualifying my humanity here. I'm just saying, I don't think it's going to cause long-term damage, but to me, even there, something that's going to startle the dog and cause this, striking out of a hand that can simulate something that they instinctively see as something to avoid, then they're going to avoid you, I know, again, these things trigger the next conflict. Like an onion here was a dog trainer. It's like, oh, here's another thing that could veer off on. But, people really like to claim, let's pull this back in here. People like to claim that certain tools, training styles, ideas, words you say to a dog or abuse, calling a dog. I've had people I see so many dogs, and sometimes I just forget, the dog, I think it's a girl, right? And I can't get it in my head it's a boy or vice versa, and I'll call it the opposite gender. Well, I'm like, do you think your dog has any idea? They don't care, and even if they did, they're a dog. They're cool about stuff. They get it. They know I don't mean it. They go, I'm just being a human. I make mistakes, right? But so this is how people become sensitive, and this is what I think a 2019 thing, is we're living in here where everyone is so sensitive, everyone's so hyper vigilant, wants to look like a hero, where they're so quick to label someone to almost take the spotlight off them, or in an outrage culture, get what do they call currency in their outrage or in their disdain for somebody who's an abuser and labeling them as such and then piling on with all that. That's what these dog groups are, so I don't even bother. I give a lot of good information to you people on these dog groups, let you ask on these local rescues. I don't touch it with a 10-foot pole. I have the real world, the trainers and real world people who get what I do and have applied it and seen it work, and then I just give it for them. I've told you, this isn't for you if what I say is aversive, or you see it as abusive, because it's not in any way, shape, or form. But so, let's see. Oh, so what happens here is like, even like, I'll tread on this one. Racism, right? Boy, there's some racists. I grew up in New York, and believe it or not, it's not just the South where there's a lot of racists. You get a lot of these hardcore New York guys. I grew up around, and there's jokes and humor, and look, I'm Jewish, and we make jokes, and I've had racist things done to me. We're all still just human, and you got, as long as it's not physically going to harm you, lighten up a little. That's my 2 cents. But as far as like people just being labeled racist or misogynist or Me Too people left and right, when they're just like not even close to that. I have guy friends. Thank God I'm in a relationship, but I'd be terrified to be dating at this point. I pretty much gave up until I met my girlfriend, because, like even a guy just like reaching in to kiss a girl, doing something, it's like they're gonna call him a rapist or something. I mean, it's like, geez, there's real rapists out there. There's real racists. There's real abusers. Get my point? It's not just a dog thing. It's just, why not? We're in such a victim culture. We want to label everything as a victim. And it's the people who are not victims who should be able to discern it, so the people who don't understand what's going on can, okay, I get it. That's what is and that's what is not. I hope this makes sense how it ties into the whole dog abuse thing. Now, what is abuse with animals? I mean, you've seen the videos on social media. They pile these dogs in cages. They beat them. They cook them. They starve them. Dogs that are out in the elements. And I'm not talking about a husky laying in the snow because they love it, or winter dogs that are meant to be in the cold weather or have a warm place that they can go to at their own free will. I'm talking about dogs that are just, living off the elements, or street stray dogs that don't know where their next meal. That's sad. And even to help them, we try to have more empathy than sympathy, because sympathy just makes dogs worry more. Empathy means that you understand and you have an empathy towards the situation, but you're going to be sure-footed and calm and balanced in helping them, right? It's the big difference. Too much sympathy in the dog world and human world. We got to build people up, not feel bad for them, through our understanding of what's going on and our ability to be, balanced around them, just like with dog training. And good dog trainers have this ability too, self-awareness. There's trainers, I've seen videos where they hang the dog. There was one recent video I just saw. It was very interesting, and I give the guy a lot of credit. He seems like he's from back east. Another dog trainer who, admitted that he had done, less than ethical techniques to train dogs. I think he's more in the working dog. See, it's not my arena. I don't do the whole bite work protection shits, and I'm a home-based problem behavior obedience guy, right? So, but I think he did some of that too, and there was some videos like dogs hanging and shit, and I'm like, that's pretty rough. I've seen videos of like guys overcorrecting dogs. I have clients sometimes, they get pissed, and I'm like, hey, I get it. Now what we have to do is sit down and check your emotions, because once you get emotional, you're going to do something, and that's what a good dog trainer can do, is understand how to handle their own emotions. You think a dog hasn't pissed me off before? Every dog trainer has, and if it hasn't, you're not experienced enough. You haven't gone through it all, or you're just lying, right? But you don't act out on it. If you can't control emotions, you drop the leash and you walk the fuck away, right? So I've seen videos where trainers, start going crazy. I know trainers that, even have admitted to me that they'll crank up an e-collar just to get a response, just to be one and done about it. And I'm like, hey, e-collars are good, but you've got to use it after teaching the dog. I don't like it where owners just throw, the trainers just throw it on the dogs without actually taking time to teach a dog and shaping what they expect before they're zapping away, right? So yeah, training tools, styles, screaming at a dog, being inconsistent. One day asking your dog to heel on a walk, next day letting it pull and lunge, and not being obvious in what you want. A dog's going to get more frustrated with training than why even bother? I see that. I have clients that I'm like, hey, I can't be the only one who's consistent, because if I am, your dog's going to not only hate the training sessions, but it's going to be downright stressful for them instead of complimentary and improving what we're working on. So these are all things that, can be deemed as abuse, not abuse, but because a trainer puts a pinch collar on a dog and articulately explains what they're doing, and has a track record and clients and people that have interacted with them in the real world. The real world is the key. People see with their own eyes. Out in public, they're doing public access work. They have clients, they have reviews that show real world experiences. These people aren't abusing dogs. They're just rational. They know dogs. They understand the dynamics. They probably had their own hesitancies. I was afraid as shit to use pinch collars for years. Even though I used choke chains, I thought pinch collars because they made my emotions say something by how they looked. I didn't take time to study and understand. And when I did, and I worked with other trainers who are more experienced, I learned what they are and how they're very useful. Right? And I found it was so much less physical when I did. That's why I don't like harnesses. Emotionally, they make sense. No one wants to hang choke a dog. But it really just makes the dog pull more, never teaches them the skills to actually walk without anxiety or reactivity, which is abuse in itself, having that state of mind in a dog when it can be prevented. And you end up with the dog with a lifetime of pulling and stress. It's just not good, right? Even though it might make sense to the human eye or state of mind, because we see things differently than dogs, or we might not have enough experience around dogs to know what's really going on, or we read some. That's why I'm against the purely positive people, because they put all this propaganda out there to scare the living shit out of dog owners who just want what's best for their dog, and no one wants to be a dog abuser or be seen. A lot of people are like, hey, I know I should use the pinch collar, but people look at me funny when I'm out in public, so because of collar shaming, I just use the harness, and I don't know, my dog doesn't seem happy and seems a lot of stress on him, but people won't get on my case over it, right? Then this, because purely positive people have created this like tribe of cult-like people who are looking for people who are doing wrongs and slights by dogs. The whole keeping dogs in the car. If it's not scorching hot out and the windows are open and your dog has a bowl of water, or your dog has the AC on and you're within earshot, there's groomers and dog handlers, professional dog handlers. These things are made for with a generator in their vans. They travel over the country and they have to have their dogs in vans. And they have notifications on their phones and troubleshoots and just ways that'll make it where there's no way that the dog is going to end up, harmed, even if the generator or engine dies, right? But these people tell me their windows get smashed, they get the cops called, the whole to-dos happen for absolutely no valid reason, only because of these people who've been told that the way they feel about it is okay, it's validated, and it's just really wrong. And the thing that I take issue is not just for poor dog owners who are trying to just live a life, or dog trainers who are trying to make a living doing good work. They're getting in the way of the people doing that good work, and then they end up not helping more dogs than they should, and then of course their training sucks, so they end up telling owners. So it's like exponentially they're screwing up dogs under the guise of humanity, and that is my issue. If you're going to be a good person, just live the life and stop preaching and get out of the way of the people who are helping. But that's really where you, as a smart, aware, intelligent person, have to discern what is dog abuse, what is not. Okay, I think I made my point. I try to, I do these, as you can tell. That's why I sound distracted sometimes. I do a lot of driving as an elite dog trainer and a lot of time in traffic. So I figured I'd use it. I'd make some podcasts here. I want to do more, but they're short because I get to my destination. It's usually about 20, 30 minutes. Also, just talking on my own, it's challenging to keep the stream of thought going. But thanks, everyone, for listening. We'll cut it off here. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review on iTunes. Go on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/dogtrainingla, and my website, dogtrainingla.com. You can get there. Patreon, I have a Patreon page. Please support patreon.com, the Dog Savant. Thanks so much for listening. Support those good trainers. They need it online. Follow all the good ones, because they're the ones who are giving the information that helps, and that's what I want to do for you guys. So keep sending your questions. Sorry we didn't get to anyone today. I've gotten them. I'm going to try to answer on the next one. We'll do a Q&A. Thanks again, guys. Have a great day.